All right, so welcome to Tabletop Gaming Guild Show. Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the memories and experiences that playing tabletop games with friends and families can create. On this episode, we're going to talk about games that fell flat, games that we had really high expectations for, and our bubbles were burst. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we've been playing. And just to keep this party rolling, I'm going to just go off with mine here. The first one, the first one I'm going to talk about is Soria. Now, Soria is pretty much like a big box game in the theme of Jurassic Park. So if you've ever seen the Jurassic Park movies or read the Jurassic Park books, this is for you in that theme. It is very much that theme. In this game, you are visiting the island. You're the first group to do it before any of the visitor or any of the paying park goers go. And as soon as you get there, no sooner do you get there and get all settled in, but the volcano starts exploding. And because they use geothermal power, the power goes out throughout the island, letting all the dinosaurs loose. Panic ensues. You have the opportunity of just hightailing it out of there. But this is your golden, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be able to explore and meet your personal objectives for what you want to do with the dinosaurs. And this is the only time you're going to get to do it. However, on your way out, you also hear that the Air Force doesn't want to have invasive species on the mainland. So in 48 hours, they're going to bomb it. So that's how long you have. You have to deal with a volcano exploding. You have to deal with dinosaurs coming to eat you. And you have to deal with the Air Force blowing you up. Throughout the game, if you've ever played Nemesis, it gives you that feel of that because you're trying not to make noise to attract dinosaurs. You're trying to meet your personal objectives to get as many points before the game ends. However, you still need to survive. And there's only 3 locations you can survive at. There's a bunker, there's a helipad, and a boat. All of them are non-operational. So you have to fix them before you can get in them. And all of them have different time frames before they just become unrealistic to use, for the most part. The boat and the helipad, depending on how the game plays, could be available all the way to the last 16th round. So that makes your 48 hours. Game's very stressful in a good way and a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this game more than I thought I would from just looking at it in general. I think it was a really well-designed game. And I really like each of the asymmetric players. So the scientist needs to collect samples. That's their goal. They have 3 different goals that they could get, or 3 different goal cards. So you don't know exactly what their goals are at the beginning of the game, but you know generally what they are. The hunter wants to go out and shoot some dinosaurs before he gets off the island because the paleontologist wants to explore and cite all the dinosaurs or fun stuff like that. Overall, awesome game. If you like Jurassic Park theme and you like high tension multiplayer cooperative game for the most part, there's only one winner, so semi-cooperative game, I would highly recommend checking that out. The other one I wanted to talk about was a surprise game for me because I wasn't on my radar at all. But Evan showed up and he's like, here's Endless Winter. And I was like, all right. So I checked that game out. Production quality is amazing in that game. Amazing. Wonderful game. The base game I like a lot. And there's only one expansion that I think is a must-have. I believe it's Ancestors, which just adds more to it. The other expansions are, if you really like the game and you want something different, because you've played it too much, maybe those. But in the game of Endless Winter, you're trying to take your Paleolithic tribe, and you are trying to settle down in land. You're trying to increase your culture, and you're trying to move along 2 different scoring tracks. Also gain culture cards for points. There's an area control portion of the game where you're going up, and you're trying to move your little camp along, and then you can take 3 camps and turn them into a village. So at the end of every eclipse, which is going to be four eclipse phases, 4 phases of the game, or 4 rounds of the game, you can gain resources and points for area control areas there. In the game, you only ever have 3 workers, and there's actually only 4 worker placement spots on the entire board. There is a rest spot. You can rest on your board, but I don't know if you want to consider that a worker placement spot. That just sort of like you can do it. Um, and it does give you an advantage in the eclipse phase, but I really like how it's pretty streamlined into those 4 worker placement places. You don't ever block anyone out of those worker placement places. When you go there, if you're the first, you get a bonus, but everyone else gets to do all the fun stuff that's in there. And another really cool additional mechanic on the game is a deck building style game there where you're going to be managing your cards and using those in both phases to gain labor points, gain extra bonuses, and there's a lot in the strategy of when you play those and when you hold on to them and when you don't. Overall, really fun, tight game. I believe it's really easy to teach. And iconography on it, this is one of the games that I'll say the iconography is perfect. Burial cards can be a little confusing. That is the only one. But even that, once someone explains that to you, you're like, okay, everything else is like pretty darn clear what it's going to be doing. So, Endless Winter, I highly recommend that game if you like worker placement games. And it has a lot of things going on it. So there's a lot of different strategies you can employ and a lot of things to keep you interested in repeated plays.
Yeah, I was super excited once you got to go through that one. I ever since when we talked to Johnny Pack, found out about that one, I was super excited to get a copy of it because it just looked really good, and it's their first title for Fantasia Games, and I think just looking at it, I think they did such a great job. It hits all the things that I know a lot of the same things you like, James, the same things that I like: worker placement, area control, deck building, and just seemed like they did that so well.
Yes. And I think you're going to love it when you get to play it. So I think this will be one that will remain in your collection forever. I'm interested in seeing what you think once you actually get it to the table. But let's go ahead and segue straight on to you, Evan. What games have you been playing? You're on mute.
I am on mute. So recently, I have gotten only 2 games to the table or virtual table. Again, I have played Role Player on my phone, digital adaptation of the game. So far, it is only the base game that is on there, and it's only single player, but multiplayer is coming soon, and they are working on adding the expansions to it as we speak. Playing it solo, having played the board game multiple times myself, um, doing a digital adaptation of it, I can probably get a round of it done in 10 to 15 minutes. So I found that it's a really good like filler game for, I'm kind of just sitting around for a little bit and need to burn a couple minutes for something. So been playing that one a lot. The other one that I recently got to play, I got to play with my wife at School of Sorcery by Dr. Finn's Games. So in that game, you are playing as rival students in a uh, School of Sorcery, and you're trying to gain favor between multiple different people that come out into the game, or acquiring different artifacts and stuff like that to get the most prestige by the end of the game. So the game mechanics, you work, you have a little card that has all 5 things you do in the round. You start by collecting crystals, and crystals you use to basically buy everything into the game. And then you're going to roll 3 dice. So with the 3 dice, that's going to tell you where you can place your crystals in the game. And then you place them out. You'll check on the cards to see if you have enough to acquire the card. And you just repeat that over and over. And there's a whole bunch of different rules on how you can place the crystals and stuff like that. It's not a bad game overall. Wasn't a great game either. It's just kind of right into the middle. My wife and I, we thought it was okay. It's one of those games that if someone asked us to play, we would play it, but it's not one that we would, pull out to play at any point. I found it a little too hard in the aspect of it required so much luck in the game, because it's really based off what you can roll is what you can bid on. So that kind of made it hard. There's some ways you can mitigate it, but not enough ways that you could steadily do it, I thought. So not a bad one, but like I said, if someone were want to play it, it's not a bad 2-player game to play. So
Yeah, it's always sad when the random element gets to be a little too much in the game. One question I did have for you is role player. Do you prefer the physical or digital one? I know there's a lot of tactile rolling in the physical one, but like if it came down to it, which one do you think you would gravitate towards?
I would gravitate toward the physical copy. So when you get the physical copy, you have really nice inlaid boards where you can set the dice into. And the dice that they put into there are nice, real nice quality. I just like that, and I like the fact you reach into the bag, you're pulling out the dice, what you're using every round. I really like that. The digital port's a close second, and it's nothing against digital ports because there are certain digital ports such as like what's the game that Twilight Struggle. I like the digital ports so much better than the physical copy because it's easier to keep track of things in it, and there's so much that's going on to the game that it's easier to just do that digitally, I think. I don't think that Role Player has enough of that extra stuff going on in it that the digital port makes the game easier to play, which I think that's kind of where my line is if I prefer the digital versus the physical.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Twilight Struggle is like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, there's so much going, and then once you get into like coup attempts and realignments, and it does all the math for you, and it tells you, and it automatically flips that, so you don't have to figure out like, well, how much did I adjust this? I can just hit the button, it did it, we're done, we move on. You can't. Well, I accidentally cooed here, but we missed that, so we didn't move the DEFCON meter. It's all taken care of in the digital port.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Plus, I can't sneeze on the board and accidentally reset the entire world.
But that's fun playing Sneeze God, like some sort of was that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Maybe that's where it came from. All right. Did you remember that? Did you read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Nathan?
Oh yeah. I love it.
They worship the nose.
Yeah.
Nose. Okay.
And there was something about a holy handkerchief or something, if I remember right.
All right. So what have you been playing, Nathan?
So I've only gotten one game to the table recently. But I'll answer that. Actually, I should answer that with a question. Have you ever wanted to be 2 miles tall? Have you ever wanted to be immortal? Have you ever wanted to be a frog-like entity?
I think one of
the answer to that is, how do you know I'm not?
It's like Hypnotoad. Exactly. We can't tell.
So, yeah, I got Cosmic Frog to the table. This is a game that I've been wanting to try for a long time. And it's a heavy chaos game, basically. You are these giant frog-like entities that are swallowing shards of the universe and swallowing different types of terrain, and then you can bash each other and knock each other out of the universe. If you knock each other out of the universe, you're vulnerable to attacks where they can steal from your vault. So basically, you're swallowing land masses into your gullet, then you're stepping out into into space to purge these land masses from your stomach into your vault. And you're bashing each other and you have ridiculous powers. Now, thing is, I played this with a low player count, and non-aggressive players that think very Euro. And this is not that style of game. So it did not work that well with the play group I played this with. So I don't feel like I can completely give this a fair shake yet. I do really want to try this with a large player count and with aggressive, high chaos players where you don't know what this person's going to be. The way we played it ended up being pretty much a multiplayer solitaire game, which is not really the way this game is meant to be played.
Sometimes frogs play alone.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing, but we're gonna go with it.
If you're going to give me a chance to eat James,
Wait,
I'm
what?
in.
Wow. All right then. Don't eat me. Anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our games that fell flat. So one of the ones I want to talk about, and I'll start this off, is a game that I love. That I know a lot of people have a love-hate relationship, or mainly, not very partial to the Terraforming universe, but I like it. I like Descent, Journey into the Dark. I think it's an amazing game. I like the second edition, and I like all the characters and all the monsters that are available in it. And I like some of the other implementations of the game that have existed. Heroes of Terranoth is, I think, an amazing game, which is like a card management style game where you're venturing through different levels. All really cool. So with that said, I'm really into that universe and that idea. And like I said, I like Descent Journey into the Dark. And I got a game called Rune Wars, which is supposed to be amazingly epic, super war game that Nathan has behind him because I gave it to him. Where you not only control these giant hordes of monsters or heroes or whatnot, and you're all fighting over these land masses. And you can send heroes out to do quests and gain you valuable items and relics to help with the fight. Oh, that's awesome until you do the fighting and you're flipping cards. Oh my gosh. I want to be chucking dice. It's that type of game, that type of universe. I mean, if someone made a fan variant where I could take the Descent, Journey in the Dark dice and convert them into Rune Wars, oh my gosh, that would be an amazing, amazing game. And that killed it for me. That flipping of cards and the non-random decks that you use. It was fiddly first, and second, it was just sort of like anticlimactic because it's not as fun as rolling a whole bunch of dice and getting results on it. Because these decks aren't actually completely random, because as you're flipping them, you don't actually refresh or reshuffle them immediately. So you have a general idea that how successful or percentage of successful you'll be in the next battles. I was just, why? I know Nathan, you've played the game?
I have actually not yet played it, since even though I've had it for 4 years.
It's an amazing concept, and it could be an amazing game. And Evan's dying. And it's just there might be someone who went out and tried to fix it. So if you haven't played it yet and you're ready to go and play, you may want to fix is a strong word, but someone might have adapted it to use dice or something else, some other mechanic.
You just disgusted Evan so much he had to walk away.
He had to walk away. All right, so
I can't stand you anymore.
All right, so Evan was just like, I cannot believe it. No, you're not telling me Rune Wars is horrible. Why? How dare you? Blasphemy.
I was so shocked by your hatred for the game that it got me.
The problem is I could have an extreme love for the game still. It's just that one thing that just tanked the whole thing for me. It's like, oh, we're having an epic battle. Hold on. Flip. Wait. Flip. Remove one of your guys. Ready? Flip. So moving on. Evan, what is one of your games that has fallen flat for you?
So since I'm done dying, which, side note, the flu this year is very terrible, and my youngest child decided to give me a good portion of it last week. It was fun,
Sharing is caring, I would say.
and in most cases, that is true. This is not one that I appreciated, but nonetheless, I was given and I got to enjoy. But going back to games that fell flat for me. So this game, and one group of friends, um, my friend has a cabin in New York, and it's on the lake, very beautiful area. And every year they open the cabin and they close the cabin, and a bunch of people go up and play games there in exchange to help open and close that cabin. So it's a nice weekend, play a lot of board games, have a lot of adult pops while we're up there. It's a good time. A very popular game that is played there is a game that I cannot stand and try to find any game else to play. But unfortunately, since it's popular there, it gets played a lot. And sometimes I am roped into it. And that is The Captain is Dead. So, The Captain is Dead, the game, you are on a starship and the captain has died. Spoiler alert from the title. And you are all crew members aboard the ship, and catastrophes are happening left and right. And you have to navigate through all these different catastrophes and try and fix the warp drive before the ship blows up, gets overran by aliens, all sorts of different things. As your different crew members, you all have different powers, and you have to collect these little cards that allow you to do different things. So, like, there's science cards and tech cards and a whole bunch of other ones. And certain things that you want to do, you have to turn in so many of these things. But depending on who you are, you have a set amount that you automatically generate. And as you're going around the ship, you're just doing all this stuff. And it's just not fun. The game itself is hard, which that itself, that's no big deal for me. Like, I enjoy playing Nemesis. That game is extremely hard. The theme is there. It's just the game is so easily quarterbacked. So easily quarterbacked. And I already have a problem with games that are like that because I've had very bad experiences with that. So that already puts it into the negative category for me. But everything else just to me is I don't care for the art style, and it's not for me.
I know you don't. It's not per se Star Trek, but it's definitely Star Trek themed, and I believe you don't like the Star Trek theme either.
Oh, I don't want to get on that soapbox.
Put your hate comments down below.
It does kind of look like it was designed in the 80s.
Yeah, it's the art style is Something for Nothing by Dire Straits music video. Which some people appreciate, but I think they could have easily done a little bit better with the art. The game plays not in it plays in a reasonable amount of time. You can get a game in like 45 minutes, and you're probably going to lose. I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of things that I don't like about it. It just falls flat for me every single time I play it, and I get roped in playing it all the time. There's a lot of better games. So many better games.
Fair enough. So
well, the game I want to talk about first is one I have a problem with the name of more than anything.
Just the name.
Is it James?
James, the board game.
There's a really popular and critically well-acclaimed game called a Level 7 Omega Protocol, which is, if I'm not mistaken, one versus many.
No. Go ahead. Oh, no.
So that's a one versus many where if you're the Marines, you're going in and trying to kill aliens, but if you get too much fear, that feeds the person playing as the aliens, and it sounds like a really cool game. Problem is, the same people designed couple other games. One of them is called Level 7 Escape, which I accidentally got thinking it was Level 7 Omega Protocol.
It's hot garbage.
It is exactly that. Hot garbage. It sounds like it would be cool. You are escaping from a laboratory, and in that laboratory, there are soldiers trying to keep you there. But at the same time, there's also alien monstrosities that are escaping, and you are trying to explore this laboratory, find the things you need to find to be able to get to the next level. Meanwhile, you can actually try to manipulate the movements of the aliens and the Marines to try to get them to fight each other. But the end result is super fiddly as far as how the enemies move. You know beforehand how they're going to move, so you can waste a lot of time just saying, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to do this. And it just like becomes a game about managing where the enemy is moving, which is not at all fun. And combat is terrible. It's just really poor combat. There is no sense of urgency because it's just a management game. It's not scary at any point because you feel like you can just take all the time you want just figuring out how you're going to move these things, the enemies. It's not a good game at all.
Yeah. And like the vents, oh my gosh, freaking vents. And then the exploring's like, oh, you ran into an alien. I'm like, yeah, just gonna run into something. I'm like, okay. And then you close the door and then there's a vent and it's like, it's still there.
Yeah. This was a game I played. I usually try to give games like 3 to 4 plays before I make a decision on this. I wasn't going to make it through 3 or 4 plays of this game. It was awful. One of the worst games I've ever played.
Yeah, it was not good. I think I got the copy from you.
Yes, you did.
I read the rules, took it to work, we played it. 0 people liked it. But yeah, I don't know. It had a cool theme. Area 51 was a video game, I believe, that I think had the same feel of it, like the same idea, not the feel. And I was super excited to play this game because I had the thought of like Area 51. Because what do they call them? The Greys or whatever, the aliens with the big eyes.
Greys, I think.
Are in this. And it's like, oh, okay, this is going to be super scary. No. And everything is like so toned down, like all the art, that it's just not any good. I don't know. Overall, yeah, I agree. That game was a super letdown.
Hot garbage.
Garbage. Yeah, it was hot. I mean, all right. So we're on a hot garbage train. This game is more hot garbage. More than yours. I win. And you will agree that I've won, I think. All right. So.
The Great Dalmoody?
No, that's a good game. Heck with you. So, heck with you, Nathan. So this game is based on a video game that I loved playing when I was a kid. Back when, computers weren't like amazing like they are now. But it was a really fun game. And you will basically gain some supplies and you're traveling across the United States along the Oregon Trail. You can die from dysentery and all sorts of fun stuff. It was a great video game. Then they came out with the Oregon Trail, the card game, which is the worst. It's so to put it in perspective, I've rated like thousands of games on BGG. Only 3 of them are a 1. And the Oregon Trail, the card game, is a 1 for me. There's no strategy in this game whatsoever. You literally will flip over a card. Something will happen. You'll either have a card to deal with it, which cards are not easy to get, or it'll die. And then what makes it worse is some of the cards are roll a die. If you roll odd, you die. And you have to go, and like, okay, that's fine. Like, okay, well, you're like, oh, wow, what do you have a problem with like a fast game where you just try to play it and you die? It's not a fast game. There's a giant deck of cards you can never get through. The only cool thing is the tombstone that you can put a dry erase marker on. Your name, your death. So you make up some guy's name or girl's name and you put it on there, and then that's it. Oh my gosh. It is horrible. I literally believe that is unless I'm thinking like other than Tenzi, that is the worst game I believe I've ever played. They're very close. Tenzi is horrible. And those of you who don't know, Tenzi, you just roll dice until you get all the same one, whatever. You get all ones, and then you can go again and roll all 10 dice and try to get all twos, and then you roll them and try to get all threes, and try to do that as fast as possible. That's not a game. That's no. All right. Anyone want to defend our country? I think that's all. No. All my games, by comparison, that I'm going to be talking about today will be significantly better. So, that was my worst. All right, Evan, what game fell flat for you?
So the next game I'm going to talk about, I believe you also rated as a 1. And let's take a step back to a conversation I had with James forever ago. And he goes, "Hey, Evan, do you want to review this game?" And I'm like, he sends me the picture. And he sends me this picture, and I'm like, "Oh, that game looks pretty cool. Sure, I'll take a look at it." I drive over to James' house. I pick that up with a couple other games. We talk a little bit. And I look at it, and I'm like, "Oh, this does look really cool." And then I bring it home, and it sits in my pile for a little bit before I can get around to it. And then I play it, and I wonder, what did James just hand off to me?
I got to defend myself a little bit on this one. Go ahead.
And the game I'm talking about is called Lying Pirates. So Lying Pirates is basically Liar's Dice with a pirate loose theme on it. So you play Liar's Dice. If you win, you get to move your ship 1 to 2 spaces around this board that you change every round. And then depending on the space that you land on, something happens which very minorly changes the game. And if you do manage to be on the same score as somebody else, you get to duel, which is a rock, paper, scissors with a bunch of different die. The components looked really cool. The dice in it looked really cool. The game was actually really terrible. It's Liar's Dice. It's Liar's Dice with a race component in it. It was bad.
Due to my defense, the game looked awesome. And I love pirate themed games. I did not read it before I gave it off to Evan, so I do apologize for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Which I have a lot more I could say about that, but I will not go into that much. Like we don't really want to.
I mean, Liar's Dice in itself doesn't sound like a bad game, but adding all that extra stuff between it sounds like it'd be making a very long game.
It doesn't really work as a main mechanic.
Right.
Like playing Liar's Dice 12 to 14 times. It's just and they do very like because I did read the rule book afterwards, but every like thing or bonus that you get just creates a variation, like an already existing variation of Liar's Dice.
Well, and too with Liar's Dice too, you have that component where if you lose, you're losing a die. So you have this added stress to what you're doing. You don't have that happen in this game.
No, you gain dice.
you like I lost this hand of Liar's Dice. I still have all, I think, 5 or 6 die in my cup. I don't lose anything. The only way you're really losing die is if you're landing on a certain space like on this board, or stupidly enough, if you're rolling the die and you flip it over into the cup, if a die falls out of your cup, you can't go get it and put it back into your thing. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So moving on from that. So next one I want to talk about is game with a cool story behind it as far as why it was created. Now, this is a game that was created by a lady that had a blind father, and she wanted to play that game with her father. This game is called Nyctophobia, and kind of the concept is just kind of give you the sense of what it's like to be blind. And in this game, everybody wears a blindfold except for the murderer, and the murderer takes the hands of all the other players and kind of guides them around and helps them find the path. And you have little like plastic bits that like make up trees as borders and fences and things, and it's basically a little maze that you have to find your way through and to get to a car, I believe. And meanwhile, the person who's guiding your hands is also playing as a murderer trying to hunt you down, which really counters the entire game because you're trying to help them find the car by guiding their hands, but then you're trying to kill them at the same time, and you're trying to teach them the game, and it's really frustrating in that regard because it's like, as the bad guy, if you want to win this game, you got to it's going to be a terrible game for the persons you're playing against because you're supposed to be helping them. But if you help them too much, there's no way you're going to win this game. So that's really odd. But the bigger issue is it's a nice kind of in concept, nice tactile, but it's, if you touch anything a little too hard, you've just knocked that piece off the board and you've ruined the entire game. I mean, the guy that can see can kind of place things back if he can remember where it was, but there's always a chance of like when they knock something down, they might touch something they're not supposed to, and then they know, oh, this thing I'm trying to go to is on the other side of this piece. So it's really easy to break this game. Not to mention the whole problem with you're holding somebody's clammy hand this entire time, which is really awkward.
That would get me right there. I'm not going to be holding it. And I don't want anyone holding my hand. So I'm like, I'm good. So, yeah.
That's Nyctophobia.
Yeah. So mine, I love Eminent Domain. I think it's actually one of the best deck building games out there. Eminent Domain uses like a Puerto Rico style mechanic where when you take a turn, you're going to be playing a card, or you're going to be pulling a card down. You're going to be doing like a lead follow sort of thing. So if I take colonize, I'll get to colonize, and then everyone else can follow. If they dissent, they can draw a card. And they're going throughout the game to try to gain the most points before it ends. Really fun, fast deck building game. So when I heard about Eminent Domain Battle Cruisers, I was super excited. This is a standalone game. It's not a deck building game, but in the same universe. So I was really excited. I bought it, got it, read the rules, went with it anyway, and it's basically an overglorified version of war with sort of like different combinations you can use of cards and number and ability, and you'll be playing them. So it's a little bit more than war, but in the end, it's like the same idea. I was very disappointed in it. I really wanted something on the same level as Eminent Domain, which I have in high regard, and I got something that would be like a mass market game. So very disappointed about that one. And yeah, I don't even think I'm 100% sure that even if I didn't play Eminent Domain, I would still not play Eminent Domain Battle Cruisers. It was not good. But yeah, so that was mine. How about you, Evan?
So the next one here is one that I actually just finished a review not that long ago. It's up on the channel now. American Psycho. So it's based off of movie, fantastic movie. Christian Bale's playing as a investment banker in New York City, well-educated, handsome, making tons of money during the day, but at night he's slowly devolving into this sadistic personality, and in the end, there's always the question of, did he kill these people? Did he not kill these people? Real good movie. So again,
basically, Evan.
Are you just saying that I'm handsome? Why, thank you, Nathan. So yet again, James goes and, hey, do you want to check out this game? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, good movie. I'll do this one.
I'm like for everything.
James, this is a lot of, the bus is coming back and forth over you on this one. So I was like, yeah, I'll check out this game. It just came out. There was not a lot of reviews out there about it. So I was going into this blind, but based off of the IP, I was like, oh, this should be pretty cool. Got it. It's a trick-taking game. So there's 4 suits in it, and you take tricks. That's pretty much the game. One cool thing with it is there's beating cards into the game, and it changes on who wins that trick. Real neat, like kind of turn on it. So it's not always going to be the same way, highest card of this suit's going to win this trick. And the king suit of it will change all the time. But to take that IP and boil it and just slap it onto a trick-taking game, and then the scoring, it's variable depending on the suit, which is way more complicated than it really needs to be. If you take American Psycho, there was so much that you could do with it. To slap it onto a trick-taking game, like I said, is just why?
Yeah, I was surprised when you did the review and I watched it and I was like, oh, it's a trick-taking game?
Okay. Yeah, like there was so much that you could have done. That IP would have been so great for so many different things. This is what we got. So, moral of the story, if James says, hey, check out this game, be careful.
Fortunately, I am far away, and so I don't get terrible games from James.
Thanks, Nathan.
A lot of my terrible games I eventually do pass to James, so I think he
passes to us.
I think he's gotten all the games I'm talking about today. Or will get if he hasn't already. The next one I want to talk about is not a bad game, unlike a lot of the other ones we've talked about, but it was really disappointing. It's Alexandria, which is the theme of it is you're in the Library of Alexandria, it's burning down, you're trying to save books. Sounds really cool. Sounds like you're racing and trying to get as much of these books out and collected and out of the library as you can before the library burns to crisp and you burn with it. It's not a race game at all. It is a set collection game. There is some minor exploration elements, and there are some asymmetric powers, but basically you are going into a room, seeing if by chance that room has turns up the types of sets you were trying to collect, and then taking actions to collect them or moving on to the next room. That's pretty much the game. Each person does have a power. Powers did not feel terribly balanced. There was one faction in particular that we played with and didn't enjoy, and we looked it up, and a lot of people seemed to agree that just don't play with that faction because it is not balanced with the other ones, and it's not really what you want from what looked like a really cool game, especially a Kickstarter that I waited for like a year and a half to get.
Yeah, I could see that. I haven't played that game yet, but it does sound
forward to
it. I probably will play it at least once, but you probably have the same opinion. But my game isn't necessarily a bad game. I think there's people out there that really love it. I don't. It has a 5.6 BGG rating, so that's not that great. and it's also an older game, so that could play into it too. It's from 2002, I believe. Yeah, 2002. It plays up to 2 to 6 players, and it's based on a video game I used to love playing with it when I was a kid, and I played way too much of it, like so much that is just ridiculous. And that is Civilization. Sid Meier's a Civilization, a board game, specifically that version. It is a giant, big box board game, and I was like, yes, I love Civilization. I want to play it. I really think it would be amazing if they could make the video game play in a board game with all the epic stuff that you can advance into and stuff. And it was just so darn fiddly and very anticlimactic. The advancements didn't matter all that much in the game. And there were just so many things that could, like, missed beats in the game. That really dragged it down and made it something that just was like, this just wasn't fun. And I had such high hopes for that because I love that IP. I think it's an amazing IP. Like I said, I played it so much, and I believe there might be newer versions of it, but I haven't played any of them because they're just like, at that point because of that game. But I'm sure they're fine. This one specifically was I think, needed a little bit more designing, a little bit more streamlining, and a little bit more thought in the advancement trees and stuff like that. But I believe Nathan's played this game.
I have. I literally spent 3 weeks reading the rules.
Yeah, they weren't very well either.
Yeah, I had to read these rules like 5 times before I could really figure out how to play this game. And it was a slog every time I read through it. Then I spent 3 days actually teaching because my group kept losing interest like partway through the teach. I don't know why I didn't give up with this at this point and why we actually even played the game. But when we actually did play it, we also found, there's really one path to the victory. There's not supposed to be, but it's like there's a tech victory, there's this exploration victory, there's combat victory. But even if you're going for one of the others, you usually end up just still winning with the tech victory, even like maybe accidentally.
It's one of the games that are just like, just someone win. Just win.
Yeah.
It's an old Eagle Griffin game. I don't know. Have you played it, Evan? No.
I played so much of the computer game.
Yeah.
But
it had a few misprints in it too that they didn't fix.
Yeah.
I do have the fixed version, which is Civilization: A New Dawn. I have not played it yet.
Well, wondered it. Interesting to see what you think about it when you do play it. So, Evan, do you have another game that fell flat?
So this next one, I will not throw you under the bus, James. And this is a game actually I liked when I first played it. And then it's just kind of, I rather not anymore. And that is going to be Ticket to Ride. So I will, disclaimer on this, the game itself, for what it does a good job. And that is to get new people new to the hobby into this hobby better. Does that really well. So Ticket to Ride, you're trying to build routes in between these cities and collect victory points. And you can do that a couple of different ways by getting tickets for certain routes or building the longest route. And it's set collection and placing it all out. The game is really simple to learn and to play, which is, great, for people that are new to the hobby. It's actually one of the first-ish game, modern board games that I played that really propelled me into the hobby. And like I said, I enjoyed it at first, but I can't stand the game anymore. It just, I don't know what else to say. There are so much other games that I would rather play than that. And it's not even one of those that if other people are playing it, like I would play it, I'll find something else to do.
See, for me, that's Catan. I way outplayed Catan, and I will actively not play it anymore. Ticket to Ride, I'm still at the point where I will find anything else to play, but if a group really, really wants to play it, I'll play it. Especially if it's their first board game or whatnot. But yeah, I'm the same way with Catan. How about you, Nathan?
Ticket to Ride, I've only really played it a couple of times, but I never really enjoyed it. I can see why people like it. I can see it being a good game, but there's just something unsatisfying about it for me. It's like I finished my route. Yay. Okay.
I think that's
my next route.
I think that's where I'm at with it. There's not a lot with it. And like I said, with my disclaimer, like for exactly what it does, bringing people into the hobby to, start, it does a great job with that. But beyond that,
so what Evan's saying is he hates people that play Ticket to Ride. No, I'm kidding.
I hate them all.
I mean, what?
Well, since Evan started with the angering people by complaining about games that they love, I'll continue that with Chronicles of Crime. Now, Chronicles of Crime sounded really cool. It's an app-based game. You are using your phone to scan different pieces of evidence or scan characters to interrogate them, and you are essentially timed. The more things you've scanned, the more time you're using, and the story will change based on that. So that sounds awesome. Sounds really cool. Except for it ends up being very awkward because you have one phone that you're passing around the various players, and you will be investigating a scene. Only one person can see the scene to investigate it, and they have to tell people what they see in the scene, and the other people kind of have to try to pull the cards that match what they're describing. But it essentially should be a solo game to me. Maybe two people. I don't think it works as a group game, and it's more of a puzzle than a game.
See, I was gonna say it's a good solo game. That's it. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much what I was saying. It's like, there's no real sense of cooperation. It's just you talk about it a little bit, but it's essentially solo.
Yeah, I know it's not an escape room game, but a lot of escape room games have that same problem. They're just better just being a solo game than having multiple players hovering over a tiny card.
At least in an escape room, well, yes, you do have the problem a lot where it's like if you got a card and only a couple people can see it, that's an issue. But at least with logic puzzles that you have an escape room, it does definitely help to have multiple brains thinking in different ways.
Not groupthink, but the think tank.
It doesn't really help you in Chronicles of Crime.
Have you ever played Chronicles of Crime, Evan? It's not a bad solo game. I don't think it's bad. And they have a lot of versions of it, so it's more of a puzzle than a game, I guess. But there's some time management in the game, so there's a little bit there. But if you're looking for a solo game, it's not a bad one, I don't think. But don't get it for like playing 2 to 4 players or whatever it's at. So I agree with Nathan on that. All right. So my next one is controversial, but not really controversial. Because I had, from talking to multiple people, I have found that everyone so far has had the same feelings. And my games that fell flat is actually expansions that fell flat. So I love Terraforming Mars. It is a great I don't know what you're going to call it. You're going to call it like a planet managing card-based strategy game. But whatever. The game itself is great. You're going to be acquiring cards throughout the game. You're going to be playing these cards to get different resources, to build different engines, to gain more points to as fast as possible, to try to terraforming Mars as much as possible, like put out oceans, raise the oxygen level, raise the temperature level, gaining points on there, and trying to chain reaction things to have really epic turns. Good game. I like the game. It's a little long. Most of my games 2 to 3 hours or more, depending on whether people are moving on their turns or not. There's a lot of things to think about in the game. But that's aside. With the one expansion I think is a must-have for Terraforming Mars, and that's Terraforming Mars Prelude. Terraforming Mars Prelude gives you a starting corporation, gives you starting resources, really, really, really excellent, great, essential, I believe, expansion for Terraforming Mars. All the other expansions, no. As time goes by, and I played the game more and more often, those expansions really showed how much they sort of dilute the game, or were just something that was unnecessary. Like Venus, the cards, unless you shuffle them in the top or do something strange, you'll have games where you just can't get the floaters and you can't do the things, and it just falls flat. And it just kept getting worse. Like the last one was, it was crazy. You had a council, you had all this stuff that didn't matter, that just made the game longer. In the colonies one, you had colony ships that you can send out. It was just a whole bunch of fiddly junk that diluted an amazing base game. And I feel like if you play those expansions like one time, you're like, oh, this is fun. But if you play them a lot, like as time went by, we actually removed expansions from the game as we went along, and we're down to just the base game and Prelude, and it's amazing and wonderful. We did rip out some of the cards from each of the expansions that weren't related to the expansion itself, so they didn't have any iconography from the expansion. They were just some more great stuff that would work with the base game iconography and the base game itself. That was nice. But overall, yeah, the
Turmoil is the most recent one.
Turmoil, yeah. Turmoil was, I think, council. I mean, personally, I believe Turmoil is the worst expansion for Terraforming Mars. For me, Colonies is next. And Venus isn't. Venus was okay. It's just, meh.
Well, yeah, Turmoil added the little council that is basically, a little side game. You stop playing Terraforming Mars to have a little council game, and then you continue the game.
And it does affect you in the game, because the council can affect, like, you can lose your terraforming rating or get bumped up on terraforming rating, so it forces you to have to pay attention to this ridiculous additional fiddly thing in the game when you're just trying to have fun. Like, I don't really care about moving senators around. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I mean, do you feel the same way, or are you like Prelude's it, or are you like, or is there an expansion where I'm just wrong about and you like beyond Prelude?
So Venus isn't bad, like you said. It's not great either. It's just kind of, if I were to add any other one, it would have been Venus. Prelude is a must, because I feel that when you add Prelude to the game, you're starting the game on turn 2.
Yeah, it gives you a nice bump and gives you a guideline or something to get started on, or just to give you an early strategy, which is nice.
The only other expansion I would consider is just like the maps, just being able to change.
I wasn't counting the maps. The maps don't do anything. They're nice to have, like, different goals and stuff. So yeah, the maps, whatever, they're fine.
Yeah.
I forgot that expansion was just maps and I think a couple cards. And that was it. I think it had a couple cards.
I don't know if it had a couple cards. I think there were a couple that were just maps, I think.
Well, there's only one map expansion. There's only one additional map for Terraforming Mars.
So the game is good. It's long. It's long. And unfortunately, most of the expansions are, we're going to take this long, complex game and we're going to make it longer and more complex.
Yeah.
And it's not absolutely isn't 100% necessary. It just really isn't.
And I know this is like, it's like I don't know if it's a 50-50 thing, but some people are on board and some people aren't on board. But I think Terraforming Mars Aries for me replaced Terraforming Mars. I get the same feel. It's not Terraforming Mars, by the way. I get the same feel that I get, like the good parts that I like of Terraforming Mars in Terraforming Mars Aries. But I feel like it's so drastically different because it is a Puerto Rico style mechanic where people are going to pick roles. Same mechanic that was used for Race for the Galaxy, which I believe a lot of people related to, because you also have where you pick, every player picks a role, and those are the only roles you can play in that round. I really like it. The art in Terraforming Mars Aries is infinitely better than Terraforming Mars clip art. That is random clip art. It doesn't even have a theme. It's just completely different. So I don't know. I still will play Terraforming Mars, especially with Prelude, anytime anyone ever asks. But I do like Aries a little better.
Weren't they supposed to do another expansion that had like a modular board or something? Did that just completely fall through and they decided?
What are you talking about? Are you talking about Terraforming Mars Aries or Terraforming Mars?
Terraforming Mars.
I thought I heard something about a modular board at one point, but there's no modular board expansion for Terraforming Mars. I think that might have been a rumor, and they came out with Terraforming Mars Aries Kickstarter. I don't know for sure. And they did come out with a couple expansions for Terraforming Mars Aries, which was another Kickstarter. And they did have Terraforming Mars Big Box or whatever, where you got all the 3D printed tiles and everything. But I think the only thing that really came with that was component wise was more promo cards, like a stack of promo cards, I think.
No, you're right.
So,
and it seems like right now they're pushing the Terraforming Mars universe into different games right now, because they just had the Kickstarter for the dice.
Terraforming Mars.
They just did, yeah. So it seems like they're going that direction right now, but I honestly don't know if that's 100% which way they're going with it for the future.
I honestly didn't even check out the Terraforming Dice game at all. I think that the theme's been going for a long, long time, and for me, a little worn out. And I feel like I have the version I like. I have both versions, so I have the versions I like. And
yeah, it almost feels like when they did dice, they made it so: do you want Terraforming Mars? Do you want it in light, medium, or heavy? Here's your picks.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I couldn't tell you how the dice game mechanics work at all. But maybe I'll check that out after the show. And so Brooks Games will probably take my money, but whatever, that's what it is.
You have unlimited that, right?
Yeah, unlimited, no money. All right, Evan. So what do you got?
Next for me is actually a game there that is directly over your shoulder, James, and that is going to be Blood Rage.
Eric M. Lang is the greatest designer ever who has ever lived. No.
I see your face.
La.
Exactly in the same vein of what you did with Terraforming Mars. The game is good. I love the game. The expansions.
The Gods expansion for it is just blah.
So, Blood Rage. Blood Rage. Ragnarok is coming, and you're fighting over these different territories, area control, trying to get the victory points so you could be the greatest clan at the end of the world. Gameplay is fantastic. Lots of great strategy into the game. I love how the map changes every single time you play, because you don't know what's going to be destroyed until you set up the board. And you kind of have to be very fluid on what you're going to do, because also you have card drafting to kind of determine your strategy. You don't know what you're going to get until you get it. So gameplay is great. Then there's 3 expansions, one being, the extra player expansion. Always use that. That's fine.
Yeah.
You have the Mystics expansion.
Yep.
which adds another core person to put into your warband, but you have to unlock it, and it doesn't really do
And it
much
doesn't
extra.
expand. Like when you upgrade to get it, you don't get to deploy them.
Mm-hmm.
What?
It was, yeah. And then the other expansion is the gods. So there's a bunch of different gods in there, but you only get to use 2 of them in the game, and they only affect the area that you deploy them in. And none of that is earth strategizing. And it's like,
It's more annoying. It's just like Loki's there, so the loser wins. I'm like, oh my gosh, just no.
yeah, both those expansions don't enhance the gameplay at all. I don't feel the core of the game is great, and the game I feel is hurt by the expansions. So I feel that the expansions fall extremely flat, which, as we all know, James is a huge Eric M. Lang fan. A lot of his games are very good, and a lot of the stuff is very streamlined and plays well. These expansions just don't live up to what he's done, I feel.
Well, Mystics, I mean, I definitely agree with the gods. I never play with the gods. Mystics, I kind of like sometimes. I really liked it when I first got it because it was kind of the idea of you got this monster that can keep getting more powerful, but it's definitely one that I lost interest in, and it's like I still kind of keep it in the game, but when the Mystics come up, I rarely choose them.
I removed the Mystics out, not because I like super against them. They're just weird and not necessarily fun, and take away from like because Blood Rage is like a high octane game. You play Blood Rage, you're playing Blood Rage, like you're moving, you're pillaging, you're doing these really impactful turns that like people have to pay attention to because they don't want you to get a free pillage. They're worried about where you position yourself because they don't want to pillage because now you're going to jump in like a jerk Viking and take their stuff. The only thing I think, like 5th player expansion, yeah, whatever. 5th player, okay, sure. The Kickstarter exclusives, I was trying to see if they came in a box. They do come in a box, but not really. I like the monsters, the extra monsters. Yeah. So I do like that. However, I doubt that you're going to get them for any decent price, and they are definitely not essential. They're just cool. I think if you only ever play 4 players or less, Blood Rage base game is perfect. Don't need anything else. You want that 5th player, just pick up the 5th player box.
Yeah, I completely concur. There's some really cool Kickstarter exclusive ones that you don't need, but they're really cool. It's like there's the one that gets stronger the more people you have in Valhalla. That one's cool.
Yeah, that. I always get like, no, and that guy comes out and do everything I can to kill him.
Yeah, and then there's the one that throws everybody off because it ignores anything but other monsters in the
that's
area.
The Wolf Woman, or if you have the original Kickstarter, the Wolf Man, because they made them all women for the second launch of the digital one.
Yeah.
But that I love that wolf because I put that out, the Wolf Woman, and they're just monsters, and see people's face fall when they're like, I have 50 people out. Well, they don't matter. They don't.
Yep.
Yeah, the game itself, I mean, it's right up there. The game itself is fantastic, and then the expansions just kind of don't match up to that. It really doesn't. It doesn't enhance the game, and that's why I think it just falls flat.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with it. I am a huge Eric M. Lang fan, but I will be bringing up an Eric M. Lang game. It's my last game when it gets back to me, so just foreshadowing.
Which he could fix all this with the expansions for Blood Rage by bringing out Blood Rage 2.
And they keep talking about that actually being a thing, and I have yet to see it. I mean, he's going to take my money, just put something up, and I'll be like, here's money. All right, anyway. Nathan.
So, I talked about a crime-solving game in Chronicles of Crime. I have another one that is also a crime-solving game called Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
Okay, go ahead.
Which this is definitely a mixed bag. Many people like it, but just as many people really hate it. And the people that hate it for the same reason I do, is you are basically playing a solo game. There is tons of information. 99% of it is irrelevant. You have to go and explore and read this newspaper, try to find clues that are relevant to the story that you're doing in this particular session. And maybe some of the stuff that you come across in this session may be relevant in the future session, but for the most part, you are relatively blindly searching around and trying to gather clues, and trying to do this as quickly as with as few moves as possible. And then once you're done and think you've solved it, you read what Sherlock Holmes did and how quickly he solved it and all the information he gathered that you never even had the slightest clue existed, because you didn't follow this one path that you didn't know you could follow.
I will say that is, again, another, I think, a good solo game. If you're looking for like a puzzly style game where you can like sink your teeth into, and you're not going to beat Sherlock Holmes probably ever. I don't think it's possible. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's not possible. No. It'd be fun. I thought it was fun. Does it have any replayability? I think absolutely not. So once you're done with it, it's over, and I do not think it's a good multiplayer game.
Well, I mean, I only played this one. I was so frustrated with it. And because the key thing, your first decision should be to investigate the cab that this guy took. Well, I didn't even realize the guy took a cab. It's like, it wouldn't have been for something I thought of to begin with, because it didn't seem terribly important. So if you didn't do that, you missed almost the entire plot.
Yeah. Well, when I get into my game here, it's going to be sad.
Okay.
It's going to be sad. This is my last game, and I got a lot to say about it. Well, a lot to defend myself with, because I love Eric M. Lang's designs. I think he's a great, great designer. One of the greatest designers who's ever been. Now that he's dead, he's still alive, and he still better make Blood Rage 2. Look at you. Anyway, so he had a trilogy of games, mythological trilogy, and you had Blood Rage, you had Ankh, Gods of Egypt, and you had Rising Sun. I love Rising Sun. Rising Sun itself, I'm not talking about that game. I'm just saying Rising Sun itself is a commitment game. So I think it's a really good game. It just has so much stuff going and so much table area that it's hard to get out because it's a commit game. But what I'm going to be talking about is Ankh, Gods of Egypt. I love Ankh, Gods of Egypt. It is a great game. We did a playthrough of it. I had a lot of fun. We did 2 playthroughs. One of them was with the beta rules, so there was like some questions on how things ran in it, which made the game a little awkward, but we still had a lot of fun. I believe everyone liked it. Later on playing through it, I'm not entirely enthusiastic about the merging mechanic in the game itself. It's weird. I get the thematic thing for it, and it's really cool that it's in there for theme, but it pretty much just takes out 2 players and splits the roles up, and it's either going to give them a big advantage, or they're just too far behind and there's no advantage. So they're just going to do stuff and disappear. There is a multiplayer map that doesn't have the merge mechanic in that you can set in. I can't remember if it's a 3 or 4 player game. That one's cool. 2 player also is amazing in Ankh, Gods of Egypt. It is an amazing 2 player game. Works perfectly that way. It's, I think, best at 2 player. You're going to be playing through. Someone's going to disappear. Someone's going to win. Done. Really great that way. Overall, though, so that mixed bag of stuff, I still think it's a great game and I play it. But there's one expansion that I just do not like. And I had all high hopes for it, and I thought the theme for it was amazing. It just added just so much fiddly stuff, and actually luck to a no luck game. And that was the Pharaoh's expansion for Ankh Gods of Egypt. It doesn't seem like it fits in the game at all. It seems to change it up from a 100% strategy game into something that isn't a completely 100% strategy game. And the sending your priests out and stuff is just not very interesting. And it just adds a lot of fiddliness to a pure game. Ankh, Gods of Egypt, no matter what you feel about the base game, it's straightforward. You have your cards in your hand you're going to be playing. You have your units out on the board. Everything is like no one has anything different. In the Pharaoh expansion, people can have different cards. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, it just felt like they made a different game, which is not the one I love. So the Pharaoh's expansion for Ankh Gods of Egypt, which I do have a review up for it if you want. So if you want to see what I'm talking about, you can watch that review. But yeah, that was the only expansion out of the whole Kickstarter I backed that I don't play with, and I don't have any intention of ever putting in Ankh Gods of Egypt. And I know we've all played Ankh Gods of Egypt, so what are your opinions at this point with the game?
I actually have not played Ankh, so I have no opinion.
Oh, no, you haven't been on the channel yet. I think you'll like Ankh Gods of Egypt. It is definitely the purest strategy game of the three. There's no, like, you can draft cards in Blood Rage that makes it variable. Rising Sun, you can purchase cards throughout the game, which makes it variable. Ankh Gods of Egypt does not have that variability. It's, I believe he said the spiritual successor was diplomacy, and yeah, without the everybody hating everyone at the end. Oh no, did he say it's definitely a pure strategy. Diplomacy, I think, was the spiritual. Rising Sun was the spiritual successor for diplomacy. But it's definitely a pure strategy game. What do you think, Nathan?
It was a decent game. There was definitely places where I could see improvement. To the point where, while I did get everything through the Kickstarter, I don't think I ever actually made it to the point where I played the Pharaoh's expansion. I slowly added a little bit, and then we just lost interest after playing it a few times.
Yeah, but
never got all the expansions.
All the other expansions are just adding stuff. Like the Pantheon expansions is just whatever, because you just add more gods. So go for it. And some more monsters. Like, who cares? You only ever able to, oh man, I'm going to forget off the top of my head, but I think it's 3 monsters you can have, 3 levels.
Oh wait, I did play this. But I had obviously completely forgot about this expansion, so obviously wasn't great.
But I do believe Evan needs to play it. So Evan, do you have any more games that fell flat?
I do not. I am tapped out.
Tapped out. That's good. That means we love board games, and there's just so many good games. These were just ones that we had so much high hopes for. How about you, Nathan?
So I want to talk about one that got me really excited. They kind of played this off as if it was a game where, kind of sandbox game where you could follow the story of all your character, and you have different levels to your goals and that develop your character, and and it's not that. This is Assault of the Giants. So yes, it's the idea of you are competing over the territory. Each character has its own little goal cards that are multi-leveled, and they call that your story that you're developing, but there is so little to it. It's like, yeah, it's vaguely thematically interesting. I suppose it could be more interesting if you play a lot of D&D and really know the background behind those characters, but you don't get that really from the game itself.
It had a weird playing too. Like, it doesn't seem like it could be, like, I don't know. I mean, I only played 1 or 2 games of it, but it did seem like a little lopsided.
Yes.
And it was also just not fun, unfortunately.
Yeah, the combat was not very interesting. It was definitely felt lopsided, and I just wanted so much more from what they promised as far as uniqueness of each character, and there is not, it's not a sandbox at all.
No, it's no part of it that's a sandbox. That's just ridiculous. Had no sandbox in that game. But Nathan, do you have any other games, or is that your last one?
I feel like I want to cover one more just to
Okay.
dunk on Tom Vassell. Now, he really loves a game called Police Precinct.
Isn't that Scotland Yard?
Nope. This is the one. It's kind of a pandemic style game where you're trying to resolve crimes. Well, actually, your main goal is to catch a murderer, I believe, if I remember right. But all these little crimes pop up in the meantime, and you have to resolve them, and you have to make sure there isn't so much crime that the city's overwhelmed and you get fired. But it tends to be there's too many of these little crimes popping up. You cannot reasonably chase after the main story. You are going to lose this. It just doesn't seem. I mean, I haven't played it a lot, but from my playthroughs, it didn't seem like it was even feasible to win this game. And it didn't help that I got a version with a bunch of promo cards, and one of the promo cards in particular, we got to the point where if we flipped that card, it's like we lost. As soon as we saw this card, that I think it brought rioters in. It's like, we've lost. There's no way we can win now that with this card, no matter what point of the game is or how well you're doing, if this card flips, you've lost.
I would assume you would take that card out, but yeah.
Yeah, of course we did.
All right. So I've not played that game at all. So how about you, Evan? Have you ever played that one? Nah. All right. So that was our games that fell flat. And just our general thoughts on it. Doesn't mean if you enjoy the game that there's anything wrong. If you enjoy the game, games are for having fun. That's all that matters. So, go ahead.
Speaking of things that will not fall flat, I have a game prepared.
Yeah, there you go. So, silly game time.
And this game, I'm calling it not Wavelength, because it is Wavelength, basically. So in this game, I'm going to give you two separate things. So it'll be like, okay, hot and cold. And you're going to roll a D20. Does everybody have a D20 prepared?
Mine's going to make a lot of noise.
And when you roll the die, so I'm going to pick somebody who's going to roll the die, and they're based on what number they roll, you have to pick something that falls roughly equivalent to what that number would be in that spectrum. And everybody else has to guess what number they rolled. So we will start with a good example with James. And probably your answer should be board game related. So the first category is going to be small box game versus Kickstarter with the kitchen sink.
I have to roll a die now?
Yep, and you will say something that fits based on the number you rolled. Now, small box games being 1, kitchen sink game being 20.
That wasn't a roll. It sounded like a thud.
No, that's pretty much a thud. Kitchen sink game. So, wait, what is it? There's a light game to kitchen sink game.
It's a small box game being a 1. Kitchen sink, aka Oathsworn, being 20.
Oathsworn being 20. Oh man, this is not good. All right. So I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the Terraforming Mars Aries Kickstarter.
Okay. So I'll give Evan the slight advantage I'll guess first, I guess. And I will say a 4. And whoever gets closest gets the point.
A 4. No.
Evan, what number do you think he rolled?
I was going to go with a 6.
This is a 20-sided die.
I didn't think there was that much.
It's like a small box to like. Okay, I might have messed up. I don't know, but I was thinking like small box, like a card game. So I said mine was. Do I say what my number was?
Yeah, what was your number?
14.
14? You think it's that big?
It's bigger than like. Oh, I should have been like. I don't know what I would have said. What would you have said?
I mean, obviously, I guess 4.
A 6.
But for 14, I would guess.
Well, no, I mean, it's
like,
definitely. I don't think it was definitely. I thought it was at least a 10 or higher.
I don't know. It's a smallish box. It's not a like standard size.
14, I would have gone with Merchant's Cove Kickstarter.
Merchant's Cove.
Yeah, that would work.
That was pretty big.
It's big, but it's not 6 boxes of content
Okay,
like
fine,
those were.
fine. All right, so did Evan got a point?
Yeah, Evan gets the point. Okay, so we will continue on with
Hopefully
Evan.
not my garbage.
Okay, so we will give you filler versus lifestyle. So filler game being 1, lifestyle game being the 20, and you'll roll, and based on the number you roll, you will give us a word.
So define lifestyle game.
Magic the Gathering,
Okay,
Warhammer.
okay. Gotcha.
I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, there's like games that it's like this could be the only game you own.
Because it's the only game you can afford after you buy it all.
Yeah, man.
I did not make this easy on myself based off what I rolled.
Just say love letter. Just say love letter. The filleriest of filler games.
For you, James, I should say Flux.
Oh.
Well, I mean, Flux itself fine. Why so many versions?
Actually, based off that, I am going to say Pandemic.
I would guess 9.
8.
James is the closest.
Ooh.
I rolled a 5.
Okay.
I figure because Pandemic is like not a lifestyle game, but higher than a filler.
But I was kind of like, okay, it's on the low end, but
yeah. So Evan and I have a score, and who doesn't?
I don't know.
And it's Nathan's turn?
Yeah. So the next one on my list is abstract versus thematic.
So chess versus Twilight Imperium 4th edition.
Sure. Okay.
He's like Twilight Imperium 4th edition.
I will say Dead of Winter.
What? Who goes first?
Whoever. It don't matter.
15.
God. Oh man, that is such a thematic. But also, I can see where you say, oh, man, I'm gonna go 14 because I'm a jerk.
I actually rolled a 19.
Oh, it's a very thematic game. Yes. All right.
So Evan
Evan
gets
is winning.
the point.
All right. So what I got?
So I threw you a curveball on this one. King of Tokyo versus North Africa campaign.
All right. Ready? Sushi Go.
Oh, you rolled a 1.
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
2.
I rolled a 3.
Oh, Evan gets the point.
Evan's
Evan's
crushing
got
it.
a good lead.
Price of Right rules.
Okay. Evan, you get Euro versus Amerithrash.
Good luck.
This one might be a little hard.
You have to put a little euro in your Amerithrash.
I might have to do a little looking here.
So now we can entertain the audience while Evan thinks.
So what's the Euroist Euro? I'd probably say, what would I say?
I mean, Concordia's up there, but maybe
No.
not the Euroist Euro.
Nope.
Oh, how about Merchants of the Middle Ages?
Nah.
No, yeah, let's get. That's
I think when people think, I don't know. I think when people think Euro, they think worker placement. So it has to be like a pure worker placement game.
Like Puerto Rico or something like that.
Puerto Rico isn't even a pure worker placement game.
Whenever I think of Euro, that's what one I was thinking.
Yeah, it is definitely Euro.
Grand Austria Hotel. But I digress.
Amerithrash. You'd have Axes and Allies.
Yeah. I mean, people argue Blood Rage on either end, but I think it's more the Amerithrash end.
I don't think Blood Rage is a Euro.
I got it.
An area control. Majority control.
Okay.
War of the Ring.
Oh my gosh. That is there any Euro in
I will say 16.
17.
18.
Yeah!
I still have not got a point.
It has to be high up there. Is there what would be Euro in it? I don't know. Yeah, that's a Amerithrash game, if there ever was one.
Oh, okay. This is I'm not happy with the social activity versus game.
Dixit.
Oh, actually, I'm happy with my roll.
So what's the two ends here?
Probably Dixit.
Okay, so 1 is a social activity, 20 is an actual game. Let's see.
Trail.
Let's make people mad. Mysterium.
It is a social activity. It's basically like
5.
4.
James gets it. I rolled a 2.
I'm like being the jerk the entire time. Like I'm just gonna one up or down people.
Okay.
Hopefully Nathan's keeping track. I don't know.
I am not in this game though.
No, you are not.
Evelyn currently has 3, but James is caught up and now has 3.
Ooh.
So, try versus buy.
Which one's which?
Oh, 1 is a try game. 20 is a game you just straight up buy. No questions asked.
So for me, anything Eric M. Lang. That's a very hard one because I have to determine like it has to be a universal game if I'm going to say buy. Right?
Oh.
So it wouldn't be an Eric M. Lang game for buy. Necessarily.
Well, it could be your own, based on your own opinion, or it could be based on what you think.
And we kind of have a
but you
good
don't
idea.
have to tell us what your
We have a
thoughts
good
are.
idea of what we all like and don't like too. So
You can interpret it as you will.
Everdale.
$14.
14, okay. Evan?
12.
It has squishy fruit in it! course you have to buy it. It's a 16.
I got a point. My first point.
Everdale. Okay. The only thing I don't like about Everdale is the biggest part of Everdale. Well, the tree. I sometimes just set it aside because it blocks people's view from the game.
I heard it's super fiddly too.
I didn't see it was that bad to put together, but it definitely like you have to have the game pushed aside so everyone can see. No one can be like on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I only played it with 3 players, so it was not an issue. But
yeah,
this was gonna be the last round. So Evan, this is your last one. James, you started, I believe, so you're done. You can still participate by guessing. So Evan, your category is 1 is an introductory game, and 20 is a game you need a college degree to play.
So basically, Feudum.
Yeah.
Or any game made by who made Anachrony?
Mind Clash?
Yeah, any Mind Clash game.
Carry on.
Talking about games that fail flat. Okay.
Games we never actually played.
Sagrada.
3.
Oh, that was what I was gonna go. I'll go 4. 5. I got a point.
No.
I am catching up.
All right.
Actually,
there's no way Nathan can win now because he gets
right. If I'm the one giving the clue, I can't get a point. So otherwise, I could have tied up.
This is who's gonna win.
Yeah, this is going to determine who wins. And the next one is appropriate for me. Hideous versus an attractive game. So 1 being an absolutely hideous looking game.
So 1 of James, 20 and Evan.
Oh!
That's so mean.
Hey, Nathan said I was attractive earlier. It's just.
Well, I was thinking more like, right, stuff like 1 being time and space and 20 being ether fields. But my actual number is going to be.
What's your actual number so I can yell at you?
I won't say my actual number, but what would be appropriate for that? Oh, man.
Don't look behind you. There's too many options.
Concordia. 1. Okay.
Let's go with Lost Ruins of Arnak.
14.
13.
I think it's low.
So my number was 11.
Yeah.
So this is on the positive side, but not like a game that I would consider particularly attractive.
It's decent art.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's functional.
I keep bumping my.
Yeah, I always thought it was like.
Yeah, it's art. That's why I said 14. I was like, oh, I got it wrong.
So the final score is I have 2 points. James has 3, and Evan wins with 4.
Yay, Evan, you win nothing. All right.
So that was not wavelength.
Not wavelength. Yeah. Well, thanks
legally
for
distinct wavelength.
Yeah. Legally distinct wavelength. All right. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys liked the games that fell flat. Please put down in the comments below, especially if you disagree with us, because that'll be fun. And or games that you feel that fell flat for you. We'd love to hear about that. So in the meantime, thank you for watching.